Hi everyone, it's Jackie here with Shift Physical Therapy and Wellness, and I am joined by Jamie Anderson. She is the nurse practitioner and owner of Intentional Wellness Solutions here in Cambridge. And today we wanted to bring you a video to talk about how to navigate the holidays during 2020.
Oh, that's right.
So you guys can imagine this year has been just chaotic and crazy, and we're all trying to figure out a new way of navigating 2020. Whether you're a mom who is navigating distance learning with your littles, or maybe you've lost your job this year, or maybe you're working full-time while trying to navigate distance learning and adding the holidays into the mix, each of our situations is different, and I think it's really fair to say this year that we're all wearing multiple hats.
For sure.
So that can play a really big role in our mental, physical, and emotional well-being. So today we're going to give you 5 tips to help you through this season. And honestly, they're great tips that you could use even just lifelong, but great reminders nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So
thank you for having me here today.
yes, we're just blessed to have Jamie here. So all right, I don't know if you guys have heard, but prior to 2020, it was reported that over 25% of individuals feel extreme stress during the holiday season. And I know that number's increased for sure this year.
Yes, definitely. And I know also with the pandemic, people are feeling more stressed just overall. The Kaiser Family Foundation recently did a study and found that 32% of people said that they had negative effects on their mental health based off of the stress that they were experiencing. And that number has gone up to 52%. So that means out of you and I, at least one of us has had a negative impact on their mental health with all of the stress associated with that. And I can definitely say my sleep has been impacted. So I might be that one out of the two of us here. So
Yeah, and we definitely can feel that. I myself am a mom of 3 kids navigating the distance learning and being here at Shift. So I think we can all assume and agree that this year especially has been unique, and I think now more than ever we need to really pay attention to our mental health and well-being. So although we're wearing multiple different hats and it's chaos overload that's going on throughout our lives right now, it definitely does not have to be that way, and we can start to take control with some of these tips here. So we're gonna jump right into it with the tips. I'll start with the first tip. One of the best things that you can do is start your attitude with gratitude. So I know that can sound kind of cheesy sometimes, but think about starting your day with gratitude. Think of something, it can be as grand of a gesture as you can think of, or it could be something as simple as like mine this morning is I was grateful for coffee. It's just grateful for coffee.
I'm always grateful for coffee.
So think of maybe even just 2 to 3 things a day that you're grateful for, and start your day really focused on that positivity. And when we think of those things and are grateful, there's actually, without going too sciencey on you guys, there's processes that are happening in our bodies to release specific hormones that make us feel good. So if we start our day that way, that can start carrying us throughout the day and start putting us in a position to feel good.
When you bring up a valid point, and the chemical, obviously too, is serotonin, helps you feel more calm. Mm-hmm. So there's no side effects to practicing gratitude, but sometimes when people do take a medication to help feel more calm, sometimes they don't like the side effects that come along with it.
Yeah.
So you can avoid taking that if you focus on gratitude first. Or
absolutely.
In addition to.
Absolutely. But either way, getting that the start of your day, and it might be something if you can write it down, or even just mentally talk to yourself about it, or you can call a buddy and you guys can do it together, and you can each share what you're grateful for, and that'll make the day get started off on the right foot. So our second tip is just taking time to self-reflect. It's okay to feel all the feels. I think Jamie and I can both agree that there is more stress, anxiety, and depression that's going on right now, and you're not alone. And it's okay to feel those feelings. Take time to self-reflect and recognize those feelings, and that can start getting you on a path of saying, okay, well, I recognize that I'm feeling this way. Now I can take some action on how I'm feeling.
Absolutely. I know one thing that I've done, even just with other friends or professionals, is I'll purposely tell them things that I'm stressing out about. I'm also a mom of 3. I started my business this year. You started your business this year. So
Yep.
we have all these different things going on. Then you add on all the facts of 2020. And if I open up and am vulnerable with somebody else, all of a sudden I see this look of relief on their face, like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been feeling the same way. So people can really be helped, helping each other too, if they're kind of self-reflecting
Yes.
and discussing that with somebody else.
Yes. And sometimes that self-reflection allows us to not be stuck in the problem, but begins to allow our brain to start focusing on a solution. So, yeah. Okay. So now we're going to go into tip 3. Now, this may or may not arguably be one of the most important tips that we could give you today, which is communication and listening. Now, we know that this year is posing a lot of different challenges, and a lot of family members are feeling at odds with what's going on with this pandemic, and some might not feel comfortable with gathering together as a family during Christmas and the other holidays around this time of year. So I think it's really important to start listening to one another and communicate those feelings with one another, and most importantly, support and respect those decisions of your friends and family members.
Absolutely, because you don't necessarily know if the person you might be gathering with is at higher risk of a certain virus going around for this pandemic. So their risk for something might not be as high to have complications. So just respecting that not everyone is in the same situation. You can have a different opinion, and that's perfectly okay.
Yes. And then our 4th tip is it's really important to start making a plan. So I know sometimes plans can seem very tedious and they do seem time consuming, but really at the end of the day, when you have a plan, you free your time up and you don't get stuck in the monotony of maybe hopping on social media. Unless you're watching this video, you can stay here. But stuck in the monotony of scrolling through social media or your TikToks or whatever it might be. So if you're making a plan, it helps you to stay focused and prepared. And that brings us to a great point with a financial plan as well, and a budget this time of year.
Absolutely. No, if you're going to be stressing out about another thing in 2020, finances doesn't have to be one of them. The presents, we could focus on different ideas instead of spending. And you had some really good ideas right before here about ways that we can give gifts that are more so experience-based than material items.
Yeah, and sometimes it requires a little bit more planning and thinking outside of the box. And one of those things that we had discussed without breaking the bank, so to speak, is even maybe taking your kids out on a sledding date. That is something that you could do and gift them. And I guarantee you they will remember that experience far more than they might remember the toy that's under the tree for them. So if you are in a bind financially, know that it is okay to think outside the box when it comes to giving. And giving goes beyond materials. They can also be gifts of experience and memories with the family.
I might have to gift you some babysitting time since you're so busy with all of the 3 children.
I would love it. We'll talk
Me
after.
too. No kidding.
Then do I have to gift it back to you?
No.
Just kidding. No, but the wonderful things like that you can give to your friends and family and do with your kids or your spouse or anything like that to make those experiences. And again, back to that tip 4 is that requires making a plan sometimes. And it's going to free you up, and you'll thank yourself for having that plan and staying focused and not getting stuck in some of those other tedious, unproductive tasks. All right. Last tip, which might be one of the hardest for a lot of us, is to just say no. Now, we always want to, this time of year, I think especially, we have a tendency to put ourselves in situations where we're doing more than what we maybe should. whether that be just saying yes to all the things because family's asking you to do them, or your kids, or whatever that might be. But you have to, and this is part of that self-reflection from tip 2, is we have to take that time to think about the best way you can give is to give when your cup is full. And if our cup isn't filled, it's hard for us to give back to the capacity that we want to.
Absolutely. It's almost like using the reference when you're on an airplane and they say, if we lose cabin pressure and a mask falls from the ceiling, who do you put it on first? You put it on yourself first, because you're not going to be able to help anyone else around you if you're out and you cannot breathe. So same thing with anything stress related or mental health. If you're not taking care of that yourself and setting boundaries to say, okay, I'm already busy with these kids, I'm busy with work, I'm busy with all these other things, you need downtime and you need to prioritize yourself in that. So saying no to things that you would have maybe said yes to before are completely okay and actually very loving to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I think sometimes your friends and family will thank you for that, because when they see that you're able to give at a greater capacity because you have said no, and they see that you're happy, that tends to make everyone else happy too. So, all right. So there are your 5 tips. So just to recap, tip number 1 we have for you is attitude with gratitude. Tip number 2, time to self-reflect. Take just a few minutes, think about how you're feeling now, and see if you can't focus on a solution instead of the problem. Tip number 3 is communication and listening. And our tip number 4 was being sure to make that plan. And tip number 5, say no. It's okay. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're having a little bit harder time this year, know that there are resources for you, wonderful resources right here in the community for you, Jamie being one of them. So if you're finding that you might need a little bit extra help, be sure to reach out to those resources, and I'll let Jamie kind of fill you in on some contact information here for her.
Absolutely. So a lot of the newest patients that I have been seeing have never ever talked to a therapist. They've never been seen by a mental health professional, and they're normally things are going well, but they're just not feeling their self. So, or they've noticed changes in their sleep, appetite, relationships, maybe even increased use of alcohol, and they're not feeling good about it. So that's when people generally contact me, and can contact me at intentionalwellnesssolutions.com.
I'll put that all on the bottom too. So
yeah, and then you could put my phone number or something at the bottom of that too. So
well, and be sure to check out our comments, because we'll make sure that we also have Jamie linked in the comments section as well. And know that we're all here for you guys. You have resources, and we wish you a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday, and we look forward to seeing you in 2021.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, you guys.